The island of Sodor is the home of the Northwestern Railway, with engines of all shapes and sizes, working hard to deliver goods and passengers to their destinations. There are branch lines that run along the coast of the island, serving the docks, the fishing villages, and the seaside towns. There are branch lines that run to the farms, quarries, and ancient castles of the island's heartland. And there is the main line, which runs all the way from Knapford on the west coast of the island to Vickerstown in the east. The line continues over the Vickerstown Bridge, where it connects to the mainland beyond. Inadequate replica. One of the engines at the Vickerstown Railway Museum is called Glynn. Although he looks exactly like the one that used to work on Thomas's branch line many years ago, he's in fact a replica. He puffs up and down the demonstration line, giving rides to passengers. And on special days, he does shunting demonstrations to showcase what it was like as a working engine. But despite his popularity, not everyone could appreciate his presence. I don't know why the museum didn't bother preserving the real Glynn. Neither do I. To me, replicas feel like a spit to the face to the real thing. Glynn felt sad whenever he heard those kinds of remarks. It was a typical day at the Railway Museum. Some engines and rolling stock were placed on display, while Glynn collected his train and parked on the demonstration line. As he was waiting, his driver noticed that he was looking rather down. Are you feeling alright, Glynn? I'm alright, driver. Are you sure? Positive. Really? I said I was sure. Alright, was just checking. If you feel down about anything, I'm here for you. I'm alright. Thank you, though. But as the day wore on, even more people were annoying Glynn. That's just a copycat, said one as he rolled past with his train. I just can't understand some people, he said to Neil. Some of these enthusiasts can't respect an engine like me. Just because I am a copy of an engine that's long gone, doesn't mean I'm disrespecting his legacy, does it? Oh, those people always try to find something to complain about. Don't mind them, Glynn. All right, replied Replica Glynn. But it was easier said than done. As Glynn was taking his usual train, the sticklers still complained. The coffee pod tried not to take notice, but the harder he tried to ignore them, the more they complained, eventually reaching a point of taunting. You're nothing but a fraud! A fraud? He gasped. His driver tried to spot the person who had said that, but couldn't. For the rest of the day, Glynn couldn't help but feel unsure of himself. His driver tried to soothe his feelings, but nothing worked. He felt so insecure that he ended up being unable to steam properly, so his driver had to take him back to the sheds. Don't listen to those fools. You may be a replica, but you are carrying on the real Glynn's legacy. What's the point? These people only want to see the real Glynn. They care nothing for an old copy of him. But why should they? I'm nothing but a fraud. How many wanted to see the real Glynn exactly? Well, just those 4 sticklers. And how many came to see you? A lot. Exactly. You may be a replica, but a fraud? You're carrying on the legacy of the real thing. The museum would have never chosen a fraud to do it, would they? And if those sticklers can't accept that, who needs them? This cheered the old coffee pot up a bit. Now there's something that you've been missing. A smile. Come on, those demo trains aren't going to pull themselves. By mid-afternoon, Glynn was feeling much better. He could see that the visitors were more than happy to see him puffing up and down the line, and they didn't care if he was just a replica. He was feeling happy. Just then, he heard Thomas's whistle in the distance. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I would like you all to meet the original, authentic, and real Glynn! The real Glynn? But how? I thought he'd been scrapped. Didn't we all? But Sir Robert here saved him, and he plans to restore him so he could take passengers around his estate at Ulstead. But I noticed you were feeling down, so I arranged to have him to bring the real Glynn over here to be displayed alongside you. Oh, how lovely, Glynn replied doubtfully. As Thomas parked the real Glynn into a siding, crowds of people came towards him. Poor Replica Glynn. Suddenly, all of his confidence flew out of his chimney. The next day, it was the usual at the museum. But every time he saw the real Glynn getting praised by the visitors, he felt sadder still, and a little jealous. As Caden the diesel shunter placed the real Glynn into the sheds, Replica Glynn puffed alongside him. Hello, my name's... well, I'm basically your namesake, he chuckled. Anyway, the museum built a replica of you, whom you're looking at of course, because they thought you were scrapped years ago. I think it's an honour to carry on your legacy as a pioneer of this railway. But the real Glynn was quiet. Replica Glynn tried hard to get to know him, but to no avail. In the end, he puffed off to his berth in defeat. He's just trying to be your friend. I understand that, Lily. It's just that I find it strange that they made a replica of me. I'm still around. Why do they need to replicate what wasn't gone? It's like what he said. They couldn't have known you'd been saved from the cutter's torch. They wanted to show what you were like back then. What were they supposed to do? Showcase your history without a physical engine there? It's best to not let history be forgotten. And she puffed into her shed to sleep, leaving the real Glynn with a lot to think about. The next day, the real Glynn was being photographed, and he began telling stories about his days working on the Tidmouth, Knapford and Elsbridge Railway. Meanwhile, his replica was carrying visitors along the demonstration line as usual, but he just couldn't shake his feelings of inadequacy. And it didn't help that the sticklers from the other day were there waiting to taunt him again. Now that the real one is saved, I think it's time for this copycat to be scrapped. Or stuffed and mounted inside the building and let the real one do all of the work. This was the final straw for the replica. He was so red in the face that he wished steam at them. The real Glynn watched everything in surprise. Scrapped? Stuffed? Mounted? Who do you people think you are? He snapped as he puffed on. The sticklers were furious at being wished upon, so they stormed off to complain to the curator. Glynn, what was that for? You said it yourself, driver. If those fools can't accept me for what I am, who needs them? Later that day, the museum curator came to see Replica Glynn, and he did not look happy. Glynn? Yes? Yes? Oh, Replica Glynn, I've heard that you've been wishing steam rudely at some visitors. I don't know what's been going on with you these last few days, but this sort of behaviour will not stand at this museum. Before Replica Glynn replied, the real Glynn spoke up. I believe it's my fault, sir. The curator looked bewildered. Whatever are you talking about? Those enthusiasts, I've been told, have been calling my replica a fraud, a copycat, and a fake. I'm starting to think my arrival wasn't such a good idea. Don't talk like that. It didn't just start with your arrival. It's been happening since my entire working life. Every day people are spit to this and phony that. I used to think of representing you as an honor. But now I feel like it's a curse. You're no curse, Replica Glynn. I understand what you've been going through, but never forget that you're an important asset to our collection, like the rocket at York or Planet in Manchester. The sticklers had overheard the conversation and felt terrible about what they had said. They apologized to Replica Glynn, and they apologized back for wishing steam at them. That night, as Replica Glynn puffed into his berth next to his real counterpart, it was the original Glynn's turn to apologize to him. I never meant to make you feel inadequate about yourself, my friend, nor did I mean to ignore you. It's been an uncomfortably strange experience to have another version of me around, as I didn't understand your purpose. But now I do, and I think you're doing my legacy justice. Aside from wishing steam at those visitors, of course. No harm done, Glynn. I'm just glad I could finally meet you and talk to you as a friend. But how could you possibly escape the cutter's torch? Everyone thought you were scrapped. Ah, but what people don't know is, Replica Glynn and the other engines listened and... But I mustn't tell you any more, or I will spoil the next story.